Hey guys, it's Bro You Whack, and with the Overwatch 2 beta on the horizon, of course we have a brand new hero in the form of Sojourn, but we also have a bunch of hero reworks, and two of the tanks that receive heavy reworks were of course Orisa and Doomfist, where Doomfist was of course a DPS in Overwatch 1 and has been transformed into a tank with a bunch of brand new abilities and changes to his hero kit. So for this video, what I want to do was to look at all of his abilities and for us to decide as a community if this is going to be a good change for Doomfist, a broken change for Doomfist, or an underwhelming change for Doomfist. So going into the training range to have a simplistic look as Doomfist, the first thing you're going to notice after you pick him as a tank is that now he has 450 health. However, it's important to understand that in between the alpha and the beta, his health, along with anything else that I talk about in this video, whether it's cooldowns or damage, could easily change. Now, the first thing that hasn't really changed too much from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 Doomfist is his rocket knuckles. They do basically the same amount of damage from his body shots to his headshots. So this is one of the major changes that people are worried about when it comes to the new Doomfist. It's really going to be his rocket punch that every Doomfist main is going to be scared for, and rightfully so, because depending on how long you charge it, it can do anywhere from 15 to 30 damage. So if you charge it up all the way, it'll only do 30 damage to an enemy, not including the wall pin. If you include the wall pin, it can do anywhere from 20 to 40 damage, usually granting a Doomfist a total of under 75 damage with his rocket punch alone. But one other buff that I almost forgot to mention for Doomfist's rocket punch is that you can hit multiple targets with one single punch. But I don't think that makes up for the lack of damage that the punch now does. However, that's not considering his power block. This is a new ability given to Doomfist in the Overwatch 2 alpha that's really going to separate Doomfist players from godlike Doomfist mains. Take me versus Get Quaked On in the Overwatch 2 alpha, where it's an 8-second cooldown where you're able to block 90% of damage from the front alone. But the biggest game changer here is if Doomfist blocks 100 damage, his next punch is empowered. So depending on how much damage you absorb with your power block, which in the alpha it was 100 damage, this will grant your Doomfist punch a faster charge, further distance to travel with your rocket punch, but also grant it a longer stun if you hit an enemy against the wall, upwards of 1 second. This single ability is what's going to allow Doomfist mains to continue to be the DPS Doomfist that they've known and love in Overwatch 1, but now with a total of 450 health on their favorite hero. And the two other notable changes to Doomfist is to his Seismic Slam and his uppercut, where his uppercut is now just completely gone, which has a lot of Doomfist mains very scared because this was a big impactful ability to Doomfist that allowed him to be very mobile, along with the Seismic Slam being paired up with it, where it allowed him to slide across rooftops in Overwatch 1, where in Overwatch 2 the Seismic Slam has way more mobility than the Seismic Slam in Overwatch 1, where it's more compared to a Winston jump, allowing you to jump high into the air, as Doomfist still allowing you to have mobility while also increasing your jump horizontally. And the last notable thing for Doomfist's change is the last nerf to his ultimate, which is just a nerf, not a rework. It's still Meteor Strike, where the damage got reduced from 15 to 100, where beforehand it was 200. However, the center damage is still the same, where directly in the center it does 300 damage, so don't think that his ultimate is completely useless. However, the knockback is completely removed because, again, we're trying to reduce CC in Overwatch 2, and it does reduce the enemy speed to now 50% for a total of 2 seconds if you are hit with the ultimate. But now that we got the patch notes section out of the way for Doomfist, let's actually talk about him being a tank in Overwatch 2, because this has especially a lot of Doomfist mains very worried about their favorite hero because, well, they couldn't really imagine him being a tank because he's this DPS machine where you Seismic Slam, uppercut a Zenyatta, rocket knuckle him a few times, and more than likely you would just finish off the Zenyatta with your rocket knuckles and then you rocket punch out to safety. It's a very simple combo that, if used in conjunction with his ability to snipe on top of rooftops, meant that he was able to get silent kills on squishy heroes, which meant that if you were like me and refused to play counters like a Cole Cassidy, Brigitte, Sombra, meant that he was just gonna roll your entire team, which means that people like me continue to call him broken, which in essence isn't really true, but I'm just frustrated with the hero. But in Overwatch 2, now that's just kind of going away. Now, of course, there still is some instances where you can have diagonals, where you can get on top of ledges with only using your rocket punch ability, but overall, the mobility factor is getting replaced with 2 abilities, one of which is his Seismic Slam ability, which is very easy to understand. Like I mentioned before, it's compared to a Winston jump, but his other ability, which is a power block ability, ability, what I really do think is going to be the biggest game changer, and what I think a lot of people are pointing to and be like, no, this is still what makes Doomfist broken. But I don't think broken is the right word, but rather one of the more skillful abilities in the game. I really do predict a lot of people will call Doomfist one of the worst tanks in Overwatch 2 within the first couple of weeks of the Overwatch 2 beta. But within time, and when they learn to not only play Doomfist, because he still is one of the more mechanically tougher heroes to play. A lot of people will argue with that because they just have to take advantage of the map, but needless to say, you still have to know when the safest time is to Cypher Slam, when to Rocket Punch, when to use your ultimate, while also monitoring how much health and temporary shield you have. He really is one of the more, I don't know if engaging heroes is the right word, but there's a lot that you need to worry about when playing Doomfist. You don't just hold down the trigger and hit things. But now on top of the Overwatch 2 changes, now you have to learn the power block ability, which again, you have to absorb 100 damage to get a, no pun intended, a pack-a-punch form of his Rocket Punch. This unlocks a more powerful punch, a longer stun duration that, again, if you take full advantage of this, you can still be a DPS Doomfist. But now with 450 health, there would be many times where I saw someone like Samido or Get Quaked On go and play Doomfist by themselves. And it's not like they were doing that out of spite of us. No, that's just what Doomfist kind of excelled at, was being able to have that sustainability. But if they went and got their hands dirty, that they'd be able to pack-a-punch their Rocket Punch. Why stay at our front line when there's less chance of you charging up your power block when you can dive the enemy back line, which is something that you still excel at, while giving you a greater chance of getting more DPS potential. But that also is what makes him one of the most self-sabotaging heroes, because it's so tempting to just dive the enemy back line and use your power block ability. But you have to remember that this is only from the front. It's so easy for just one hero to get behind you when you're not noticing him, because again, you just have so much going on, and for them to shoot you and you're dead. Plus, on top of that, even if you do absorb all the damage, do you have a way to get out of there? Do you have your Psychs and Slam? Probably not, because you probably wasted it to get into the enemy back line. Are you going to waste your new Pack-a-Punch Rocket Punch to get out of the team fight when you're supposed to be getting a kill with it? Like, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make in a split second before you even dive the enemy back line that someone like me is not going to be able to decide, like, okay, I'm going to dive, and then if this doesn't work out, I can Rocket Punch. Like, that just doesn't, that's not how my mind works, because I don't know how to play Doomfist that well and compare to some of these other Doomfist mains. And that's why I don't think Doomfist is going to be the worst tank, but people are going to have to relearn how to initiate with him. So here are the two things I'll say about Doomfist to calm the people that are thinking that he's going to be super overpowered in Overwatch 2, and to calm the people that are thinking that he's going to be super underpowered. The first thing I'll say is, not everyone could just pick him up and do well with him. I tried playing him and I did terrible, like, I'll admit that, but it's also because I'm not a Doomfist player. And I'll also go on record and say I'm sure Samido and Get Quaked On also didn't do that well with him at first, because in a sense he's kind of a brand new hero. I mean, he is a brand new tank technically, but I don't think he's gonna be an underpowered tank, because you do have that power block ability that, once again, if you just learn to take full advantage of that, can really unlock his true potential. But the other thing is that I feel like he's gonna be a very team coordinated hero, that if you all push together, similar like Winston, there's no reason why you should die as Doomfist, because you still have the temporary shield, you still have your 450 base health, and also you have many ways of getting out of a sticky situation. So if I can make a crazy claim, I think Doomfist is gonna be a way better Winston when it comes to diving the enemy. If you dive by yourself, you're gonna be feeding, you're gonna die probably. But if you dive with maybe a Genji, or in perfect world, a Genji and a Tracer and a Lucio, and people that can keep up with your mobile playstyle, there's really no reason why you should die, because you have so much sustainability as a tank, and you're doing a lot of damage yourself. So if you kill the enemy first, well, then there's no reason why you should die. But those are just my final thoughts about Doomfist in the alpha. But once again, all of this can change in the beta. He could be the worst tank because, well, maybe they nerf his power block ability where you need 200 damage. That'd be crazy, but that could happen. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think about Doomfist in Overwatch 2 and him being a tank, and I will see you guys in the beta on Tuesday. I love you guys. More Overwatch 2 videos to come, and bye.